Hello all and welcome to a brand new video. I know the channel has been quite quiet recently. I have had a few ideas and this is one of them for videos, and there will be some more on the way. I'm going to try and focus on doing some more videos on this channel, so stay tuned for those. But this one is one that might be a little bit controversial. As you can see on the side here, I have two particular Beano related items related to a very special issue of the Beano. It's obviously its first one. And judging by obviously the title, you know exactly what this video is about. Basically, I want to address something that's happened recently. As you know, 6 months ago I did a review of the Beano 80 Years of Fun collection, which was a fantastic set to celebrate 80 years of the comic. Ashamedly, I'd only had a chance to really properly get through and spend the day reading through the replica issues and reading the magazine and the history of the comic only about 2-3 weeks ago before the recording of this video. So yes, I finally got around to looking through the whole collection, and I tell you what, I will stand by my points. No matter what I say in this video, the Beano 80 Years of Fun collection is a fantastic thing for any Beano fan. It's a must-have, and I think it's still available to be purchased. I think even though it's limited, it's still got a few copies out there, and you can still purchase the magazine from WH Smith's and those sort of stores. But there was one indiscrepancy that I noticed, and I only found that came across this. I think this was halfway through reading the collection, and one thing that struck me was reading issue 1, the replica, the reproduction of the first issue here. Now, why this? When I was a kid, I acquired this version here, the 2003 reprint of issue 1, a mini mag, basically, on a plasticky type paper with like a white paper on the inside. Now I remember reading this, and as a kid in 2003, I was only 9 years old, 10 years old. It took me ages to get through this. It took me a whole afternoon to get through it, when a normal Beano comic would take me like half an hour at the time. I remember being so prominently taking time with this, and yet when I read this one, I thought, well, obviously I must have been just a kid. I'm a fast reader now, you know. But it didn't feel anywhere near as time consuming, and I wondered. And it was something I spotted on the front. I don't know if you can see, next to the Beano icon is it's just the Beano comic. There's no character or anything on the top here. Now, in this original reprint from 2003, we'll see, you can see it very clearly up here in the corner. If the images aren't very good, we'll put some better images of it on the screen now. The character next to the Beano comic logo was called Peanut. And in the recent reprint, Peanut is not present on the front. As you can see, probably from the images or from that, Peanut is a dark-skinned character, and the way he's represented on the front of the comic is something that a lot of people can deem racist and not suitable nowadays. Now, for obvious reasons, this is the reason why Peanut was cut from the front of the comic. In general, this little detour from the original front hasn't changed the cover that dramatically. And Peanut was never a character within the comic itself. He was just a mascot for the comic for the first, I think, 10 years of its life, till Big Ego left the comic as a comic character and became the mascot. It was weird. There was always a different character next to the Beano logo for the first 15-20 years of its run. But Peanut was one of those weird things. He was on the cover, and he's a stereotypical character. A lot of racist elements. He's clearly a black face with a white mouth, made, you know, the way it was drawn made him look more primitive than interpreted, and obviously he's got bananas in his pockets in relation to monkeys and things like that. I can see there's a lot of racism. People can see this character quite offensive, holding a watermelon. Now I don't understand, and if you got in the comments, can somebody explain to me the exact reasons why watermelons particularly are? This is not me being this is me not actually genuinely knowing. I know they're racist, or they're deemed racist or offensive, but I don't quite know the exact reason behind it. Is it just because watermelons are considered something that, you know, is attributed to primitive people? I don't, and that idea of slavery and black people being primitive in that respect, I don't know. So please, if anyone's watching this and you know the exact reason, can you put them in the comments? I'd actually like to know, just so I know. But I do know it's deemed racist, and I know that's why it was cut from the comic. And I thought, actually, if that was the only thing, then great, that's fine. But it wasn't the only thing cut from this recent 2018 reprint of issue 1. There are 3 other segments to cut from here. And then the other one is another obvious one. Is the back page is the Jolly Jokes and Tricky Riddles page, which was The Jolly Jokes and Tricky Riddles was a selection of jokes, assumingly from the comic creators themselves. I don't know if people submitted them, I don't think they did, with an advertisement for being number 2, and obviously Peanuts is very prominent here, as he's at the top, still eating his watermelon, and next to the logo for coming in the next issue of the Beano. Now, they could have probably edited this page realistically, looking at it. Peanuts himself I know he's on the actual thing, but you could have easily just kept the words, left it blank. If you wanted to remove him, it was probably easy to Photoshop him out, as would from the logo, to keep basically the page as close as possible. If you just get rid of Peanut, Peanut even has a letter here saying cheerio to the readers. Yeah, I could see. So that page was removed as well, and I thought, well, okay, they're really removing anything that's prominent with this character who's clearly racist. No, it's not the only thing. Going through the comic, there are 2 other characters. So let me know why these characters were cut, because this is I understand why Peanut was cut from this version, but why were these 2 characters cut? The first here is on pages. I don't even know what page it is, but basically next to Whoopie Hank is a book, a printed story called Black Flash the Beaver. This character, this Black Flash the Beaver, I've not read this story again, and I might give it a read again at some point, but I don't understand why a beaver character was cut out from the Beano. He's not in this version, because in the later version here, we've got Whoopie Hank is actually on the left-hand page, while on the original version, Whoopie Hank is on the right, next to Black Flash the Beaver. The previous comic book story is The Adventure of Tom Thumb, and the same applies here. Tom Thumb is on the previous page. So Whoopie Hank and Bob Monkey's Magic Bowler Hat is on the following page, which we'll get to that in a minute. So the other character was is actually Whoopie Hank is sort of in between the 2 characters that were cut out. The other one is called Cracker Jack, the Wonder Whip Man. Now Cracker Jack, he just seemed like an entertainer who uses a whip like Indiana Jones to solve problems and is a general hero. Now, why were these 2 characters, Black Flash and Cracker Jack, were these removed because of the page difference, removing 3 pages? I'm not sure if that would have caused a massive issue to the page count of the print. Why were these characters cut? Because I don't understand. I haven't read these stories, I'll admit, since the first time years ago. But looking at the pictures on Jack Flash and the story behind Black Flash and Cracker Jack, God, that's difficult names. Neither of them strike me as characters that would be deemed unsuitable for today. Now I want to know opinions on this, what people think about this, because I'm late with the idea here, with what had happened with this. Is I found a few articles at the time, back in July, when this was released, people complaining about how Beano #1 isn't an accurate reprint because it's cut 4 pages, so it's not an accurate recopy, and obviously it's edited out Peanut from the cover as well. So there are significant changes between this reprint, which is, I believe, accurate. I obviously don't have a copy of Beano #1, but a lot of people say that this is an accurate copy, and compared to the recent 2018 version, which it even feels like a real copy. Well, this is made on a plasticky and is clearly half the size. Throughout the rest of this collection, on every issue of the reprinted Beano, with the exception of the newest one from 2015, 2014, everything up until the 2002 edition, which surprised me. There's a little disclaimer at the bottom of one of the pages on every copy, saying that some of the content is subject to its time it was produced and may not be reflective of current attitudes and stuff like that. That surprised me in 2002. Obviously 2002 was clearly a lesson night in time. That was to 2001, which was when roughly I started reading it. So that was fine. That little note like that was fine to put on something like that, and I don't know why they had to go drastic with this copy. They could have if they really wanted to just cut Peanut out of that and edited the last page, they could have kept majority of it. So I don't understand why Cracker Jack and Black Flash were removed. Yeah, I don't understand why that was the case, because I think this collection for Beano fans is fantastic, but if you wanted an accurate reprint of the first issue, this is the closest visually, but it's not the closest, and it's not the most accurate copy of the first issue because of these censorships, and it's got people quite wound up in the comic circuits, and I can see why, and it slightly annoyed me because I feel like I'm missing a segment of that original thing. When you could have, or even, included a letter or something to explain the reasoning behind what was on the cover. Now, I know a lot of kids bought this collection, because obviously it's a Beano thing, it's a Beano product, and they say, oh, the kids, you don't want to sort of expose, but I think my personal opinion is that they should be exposed to these things and explain why these things were wrong. Kids learn from the mistakes. If we hide the things from the past, I think it causes an issue, because, we're trying to erase these things, when I think people learn better when they know things in the past were wrong. I think anyway. And now, me personally, this copy here I received in 2003. When this came out, I was 9, and I got this when it came out because it was a limited edition. I can't remember exact reason. I think there was an advertisement in the Beano itself. I bought this one, and there was about 4 or 5 of it key issues that were reprinted like this, and I got every single one of these. I was 9 at the time. At no point did I look at Peanut and go, oh, you know, that's, you know. I just saw him on the cover and just went, oh, okay, and then moved on. I never sort of went. I didn't take anything from that, anything more than what it is. I think a few years later I learned exactly the reasoning behind its racism and this, that, and that. But it was never something I looked at and thought, oh my god. I was never traumatised by Peanut being stood on the Beano front cover at the age of 9, which at that point I was the Beano's target demographic. It's 8 to 12-year-olds. To cut it out and say, it's trying to hide it from the kids today, I think it's quite insulting to children to not show the mistakes from the past. I don't agree. I don't agree with the representation of Peanut here, and I think it's quite. I can see entirely why it's offensive, and don't understand about the other 2 comic strips, the other 2 characters they cut out of this. So please explain to me why they cut these characters. It might have just been a page count thing, I don't know, but if it's just something as stupid as that. So I don't think it should have happened. I think as a collection, this is aimed at. It is aimed at kids, but at the end of the day, a lot of people. I don't read the Beano regularly anymore, but when this came out, I jumped at the opportunity to read it, and a lot of people who are seeing this and reading this are the collector demographic, those who want a collection or opportunities to obtain a copy of a reprint of the first issue, because the chances of getting a real one is very slim now. There's only about 30 issues, number 1s out there. Very few people will own a copy of one, an original 1938 copy of one. To have this is probably the closest thing, and to have something that's inaccurate as it is, for the sake of censorship, has caused a lot of problems. I don't think it's quite right in that respect. There could have been a better way of handling this, and I know we're in 2019 now, and the world is easily offended by quite a lot of things. And people always say that, don't they? It's the world is easily offended by things, and it's. I wouldn't entirely agree, but I would say I think the industry is too afraid of people complaining about things. With the idea of social media, and everyone seems to have a voice nowadays, and I think it's caused issues because beforehand, if you had a problem with a product, you just wouldn't get it, or you'd be disgruntled and tell your friends, and that'll be it. Now you can advertise it to the world, and you could probably do some damages to companies, and I think you see why DC Thompson did what they did with this. They didn't, it only takes a couple of disgruntled, offended people to say a few nasty tweets or a few nasty messages, and it could cause some serious harm to a company like DC Thompson. So I completely see why, but I think there was a better way of doing it. I think there was a better way of going, look, this is of the time. The Beano does not reflect these traditions anymore, and it is used as a piece of historical evidence of what the world was like in 1938. I think that should have been enough. I would have been more than happy with that, and there would have been no problems with that, I don't think. I know people still have some issues with this, but it just saddens me how we're trying to stop our younger generations from seeing the mistakes of the past, and I think a lot of our future generations, the kids of today and the adults of the future, they can learn from the mistakes of the people who were like that in the past, the racism, the unacceptance, the intolerance to those that are different, and by hiding these things does not, if anything, might do more damage than good. Wow, this has got really philosophical for the Beano. For a kid's comic and being censored, but yeah, censorship and the Beano. It's a good collection. If you want a collection that represents the Beano, 80 Years of Fun is still my recommendation. Just don't expect issue number 1, and I think the 1948 comic as well has been edited slightly, even if it's just Peanut cut off from the cover. A good collection for people who want a good thing to celebrate 80 years, but don't expect 100% accuracy. If you want a 100% accurate, there have been a lot of reprints of issue number 1. This one, I don't know if it's in print anymore. Mine is fairly tattered, unfortunately, as a 9-year-old. I didn't look after it very much, and it did come with a whoopee mask as well. That's another thing, it should have come with a whoopee mask, because this one did, and I lost mine, unfortunately. It's a bit tattered now, unfortunately, but I'm still glad I've got it. It came with a little phone card in it and a whoopee mask, and and all that. So if you can get hold of one of these, or if I know there have been a few reprints of issue number 1. I think this is the only one which has had the edits. So if you want an accurate one, get one of these. If you're not too bothered about missing out a little bit on issue 1, I think it is only issue 1 that's lost pages of stuff. Everything else I think is accurate, with the exception, I think, the 1945 issue, the War one, has Peanut not on the cover, but the rest I think is accurate. I don't have a real copy or another duplicate to compare to, but I believe that's the only one that's been edited. So those are your options. But let me know what you think. Comment below. First, explain to me the racism, what exactly it is about war melons. That's one question. To be honest, put that in the comments below. Let me know the reasoning behind, and if anybody knows out there why those two particular comic characters were cut from this copy, then please let me know about that as well. Let me know what you think about this whole subject, where you think the Beano should have stayed as true as possible and should have tried to defy the people that would take offence and try to do something to shut it down. Let me know what you think about the Beano. It is a fun collection, I'm still up for that. If any of you got one of these, let me know about that as well. I'd love to know how many people bought one of these back in the day. And thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.